Miranda, you are incredible. We know you for your famous sitcom, as we found out tonight, means situational comedy. Situational
yes.
comedy, which you did know.
I did know
you
that.
You did know that, yeah.
It being my
we
job
didn't
and
know,
everything.
Yeah. And many other things. And you've recently written a book called I Haven't Been Entirely Honest With You. You're a woman of many words, many deep words. And
Are you saying the book was too long?
No, I loved it.
A woman of many words.
I will say, though, I was given it when it came out, World Mental Health Day. And I'm a slow reader, and it's been very busy. So this week I was on like the last third of the book. Oh. And yesterday the last chapter just absolutely destroyed me in a great way. Who has read the book? Can we just do it? Yeah. Okay. So everyone. We need to get. Sorry, I put you on the spot, but it's.
That was awkward.
Where I actually wanted to start tonight, Miranda, was recognising you. I think most people know you for the joy that you bring into people's lives, which is something. Like, one thing I love about you is I can be scrolling on Instagram, and Instagram is a place that, to be honest, often you can just feel a bit crap on. And then I come across you just being yourself and making people laugh and dancing in. I don't know whereabouts in England you are, but it's like a red cottagey room. And I'm like, this looks amazing. I want to know where she is. But I think a lot of people know you for the joy that you bring to people, and that's the first thing I wanted to recognise in you.
Thank you very much.
But the second thing I wanted to recognise in you is the depth that you carry, and that's something that I think through reading the book, for me, I genuinely was like, wow, this is a woman who has not only just been through a lot, but has the courage to share it with other people. And you could have decided not to share any of that stuff. It would have actually probably been a lot easier. A lot easier. It's super vulnerable, and I think that's important to recognise tonight when we start to share things that we've been through. That's vulnerable and that's costly. And so I want to thank you, first of all, for the conversation that we are going to have.
That means a lot. Thank you.
And the final thing I want to say, and I think this leads nicely to my first question for you. I was actually quite nervous to interview you tonight. We used to gather around our TV set at I think what was Miranda on 7:30 on a Sunday night or something. And we'd be like, Miranda's on, get down. And everyone would gather around the TV. And so to think, how many years later, sat here getting to have a conversation with you, the little girl in me was like, wow, this is so cool. But actually, the nerves went away completely when every time I read in your book just how much you want people to be their full selves. I was like, this is just a woman that just wants me to be myself and wants everyone in this room to be themselves. And so that's where I want to start, is recognising all those things in you.
Thank you very much.
And on that note, about being our wonderful selves, you call it our wonderful true selves, or wild selves. Wild selves.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
To me, that means, well, I think it's a sort of holy grail for us all, really, but to me it means being as authentically, honestly me as possible without a mask or a sheen of pretense. So I think when we're honestly ourselves, then we're not thinking, what do people think of me? Then we might go into people pleasing, or when we're just rooted in knowing that we're loved and valued and worthwhile, whatever we do that day. I'm not explaining that very well, but...
What's your, I know that's such a passion for you, for everyone to know their value and that they're worthy.
Yeah, do you know, it was amazing.
Where's that come from?
Well, I think it was always there, but I always felt this a sort of lack of belonging, in a way, and lack of connection when I was younger, because all I felt was that people were putting on a mask. And I think I am a highly sensitive person. So I think I just recognized it when I was younger. I was like, I want to see the person beyond. I could sense that people were trying to be polite or kind or good. And I was like, but who are you? What excites you? I couldn't bear small talk. I just wanted to get to know the people behind the sheen. So, and I'm talking very young, 8, 9, 10. So being brought up in middle-class England didn't suit me very well. And I think that's why I fell in love with comedy as well, because I saw adults playing and being ridiculous and being silly. So that was my play, and joy was my portal to authenticity and honesty and a being real. What did you ask me? I've forgotten. There'll be a lot of that. There'll be a lot of that.
I know. What's your heart for people being valued and knowing their...
Yeah, no,
where
we
did
were
that
on
come
something
from,
else, though. I can't remember what I was saying. Nor can anyone else.
It was about people hiding masks, and we hide
hiding
ourselves.
masks, what my heart for it is. Yeah, so
yeah.
I felt this disconnection. And so comedy was my portal to that. And then when the sitcom came out, I had so many people, I had this really privileged position of so many people writing to me and saying, you've helped me feel that I can just be who I am. And which I didn't obviously go to write the sitcom. I didn't go, I'm going to write a sitcom about, a woman helping other women to be themselves. I just wrote what I thought was funny. There was that undertone to it that I knew, but these amazing stories. And they said, it's healed other parts of me. So I got a message from someone saying, I'll never forget it, a young woman saying she was being bullied at school and she stopped going to school because she was really tall. And then she kept watching Miranda, and one day she just put her uniform on. She put her shoulders back, and she said, if I get called the green giant or the gangly idiot or whatever, I don't care. I'm just going to be Miranda for the day. And it stopped everything. Wow. And it makes me emotional thinking about it. Excuse me. So I was thinking, gosh, that's what I wanted. I wanted people to... That's what I wanted when I was younger. I wanted everyone just to be themselves. And
did you feel like you could be yourself?
Well, I thought I could. So the sitcom me and the sort of famous me, as it were, or the me in my social life, I've got some friends here who can be silly, the one who'll fart publicly, the one who'll...
could happen today.
Oh, yeah. It makes ridiculous jokes, wants to play games, just silly. That, in my job, I became able to be free being that side of me. I've forgotten what you asked again.
Have you always felt like you could be yourself?
Be yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm 50, nearly 52.
And I mean,
that's all I'm saying.
Kind of connected to that. What's that? Yeah, because it feels like where you are today is such a passion for you. You're so rooted in that firm belief that you are enough, which you're valuable. I personally struggle with that. I think a lot of people will struggle with this idea that they are actually valuable just for who they are. Take away what they've done. What people have said about them, which is, we often try and find that from other things, don't we? So what's that journey been for you?
Well, so from the sitcom, it was that sense of, oh, right, that's what this is doing, and that's what I always wanted when I was younger. And then fame sort of gets in the way of that, and fame can become a bit confusing because you're sort of presenting and asserting. So I felt very like I could be myself as the silly person. But then what the last 10 years has taught me, when I've lived with chronic illness, it has meant that I've been so removed from the world that I have not been able to identify myself with any measurements that you normally do. So I had no job, no relationships. My friendships were lost because I was just bedridden, housebound, on and off for years with illness. So suddenly I realised, hang on, who am I beyond all those roles and responsibilities and busyness? And that's when I realised, there's a huge chunk of me that wasn't authentic in the world. So actually, I was really good at being silly, vulnerable in a silly way, and I was really good at owning that part of myself. But there was a huge part of me missing, including things like asking for help. I was terrible at asking for help, being over-independent. Oh, if you need a job done, ask you to get it done yourself first. That sort of thing. So I learned then in the last 10 years, gosh, there was this person who was out there in the world, and I thought I was very free, and I thought I was very me, but I actually was missing a lot of myself, and I didn't realise that, which was really, really humbling. So I had been spouting to fans of the sitcom who'd written to me, and I always said, if they said, what's your advice to be as most myself as I can, I always would say, my only advice is, think on this actual fact that there's only one of you in the whole history of humankind ever. There's only one you. Even if you're an identical twin, there's only one you. If you actually sit with that and kind of meditate that every day, you can only start to think, I therefore am. I can't not therefore be valuable and loved and have a point on this earth at this time. So I used to spout that, and I used to wholly believe that, and I did have self-worth, and I had a lot of confidence. I was very lucky, and certainly professional confidence, and social confidence, actually. But there was this whole gap missing that I learnt in chronic illness, which is the book.
Is the book. Yeah, and I love that message in the book. Yeah, there's no one else like you, but you also write, no one has come before you and no one will come after you. And it's actually profound when you think about that. And so that's something you've meditated on then?
I then had to.
And is that a daily choice for you? Is that something you have to keep coming back to? Or does one just get to, I'm enough and they're done? Or is it a journey?
I think so. I think you always think. So what I've been through in the last 10 years has been this profound and interesting and very surreal situation of, as I say, being totally removed from life. You know, people go on retreats and say it's difficult. People go on silent retreats to go and find themselves. And I was forced into that for years. And, oh no, I've forgotten what you said again. I knew this would happen tonight. That's what I said.
I know, and I'm forgetting what I've asked you, so I'm not very good.
I'm so sorry. It's not normally this bad. Talk about being authentically yourself.
It's good, yeah.
The menopause is raging. I don't even know where I am. No, it's actually really annoying me because this is my sweet spot and this is what I love talking about. And I'm mid-sentence and I'm going, yeah, and then I'm going...
What did I say?
What am I saying? What did she ask me? It's really annoying.
It's good. Everything you're saying is brilliant, though.
Well,
we're loving it. Aren't we loving it? We're loving it, yeah.
I just wish I could remember what I was saying.
Well, I would like to know, you said earlier, for you asking for help was hard.
Yes.
And getting to that place of, I think you use the expression in your book, like coming home to yourself, and that idea of really belonging and really feeling, and when we belong, we can be fully seen because we're being fully ourselves. I think that's such a big part of what it means to be recognized, is because if you're not showing yourself, then you're hiding away, you're isolating away, and then you're not being seen. And then I guess it just perpetuates and you feel more isolated. What else gets in the way for belonging? What did that mean for you?
I think what I learnt was, and from study and research, was something probably very obvious to you guys listening, but that we are intrinsically wired to belong. To survive, we need to connect and to belong, let alone thrive. It's not just a nice idea, it's essential for our nervous system and our brains. So I think what gets in the way is the fear of rejection for everybody, and that manifests in different ways. So I learnt that it was much easier for me to isolate and not ask for help. And I wondered why that was, and I now know it was because, well, I didn't have a diagnosis for a long time, firstly. So there's so many times you can say to your friends, I'm feeling fatigued and I can't get out of bed, and people don't understand that. That's a whole other thing. But
we'll come on to that.
Yeah. So it's much easier to keep people at bay. Well, I think people go either two ways. Either you go to people-pleasing to try and sort of ingratiate and make sure you're connected and you belong, or it's very easy to isolate, and that's where I went. And I didn't know I was doing it. It was the blessing and hefty disguise of years of illness to realise that, I was keeping people at bay or being over-independent because that was a protective mechanism so I didn't have to be rejected. So I think what upsets me is where my heart is. You asked me earlier where my heart is, and I just don't want people to hide who they are. And I think it's what I can only speak from my experience, but it's what we all do to some degree. Because ultimately we've got a fear of rejection. So I think the more you think, everybody lives with a fear of rejection, it's a primal instinct. So my job is to work out how to love myself and connect authentically. And it really is a bit in my book, I say, where it really viscerally resonated with me. The whole idea of being hidden and trapped, I talk a lot about in my book, which I went to volunteer at an elephant sanctuary in Thailand, because I'm a saint. And it was just for a day. And
did you get a photo?
Yeah, obviously, I was here for months. And we saw this video of why the elephants get captured and why they're there. And it was, this is going to bring the mood out. It was the most awful, I'll never forget it. But the elephant, you may know this, but the elephants to get tamed, they get put in a wooden frame, a wooden cage, and every time they move, the human sort of basically spears them. It has a long stick and a knife. And so they learn to be completely submissive and not move. And then when the cage is removed, they're tied up, chains between their feet, so that if they run, they fall. So they're, us tourists who might then go and feed peanuts to this wild animal, it's literally forgotten sort of who it is. And I lost it watching that video, and I knew it meant something more than just the animal cruelty, which is horrendous. There's enough. And I thought, I recognise that. I felt like that. I felt like I've hidden myself, like the stabs of the world. The world tells us, this is what you need to look like. This is what it is to be a woman. You must look like this. You must act like this. You mustn't have a loud voice. You mustn't be, I might be older than some of you, I don't know. But, it wasn't seemly to be angry as a woman when I was growing up.
There's bad emotions and
good
emotions.
Good emotions. There's so many ways that I was hiding myself. And I was hiding from that, and I didn't realise until the last 10 years. So that really, so that's and then I don't know if you've come across a book by Bronnie Ware called Top Regrets of the Dying, and this breaks my heart. The top regret of the dying is, I wish I'd been more myself and said what I wanted. And it just gets me. So that's my heart, is just, I want to see everyone's wild elephants, not a euphemism. But yeah, and we're all vulnerable, we're all wired differently, so we're all vulnerable in different ways, and it doesn't mean that we have to be all out there. I'm an introvert and also need silent time, and people are better listeners, people are better speakers. It doesn't mean wild as in loud, or you can be as reserved and unassuming in your wild self as you like, but it's just that, I've always felt very, very in touch with this cultural, worldly way that was shouted at, this is what success is, this is what we celebrate. We still celebrate extroverts over introverts, all that sort of thing, and I can really sense the world shouting at us in a way that makes us all hide and go, who am I, actually? I don't know how to be.
And so I think some of the most dangerous things are the things that you don't even recognise as well.
Yeah.
Because it's so built into everything we listen, everything we watch, our social media. So then that kind of just makes me think, I'm sure everyone in here tonight, including myself, probably thinks, what am I hiding? What am I hiding? Some things will feel obvious. Some things we probably...
This is basically a therapy session.
This is a therapy session. We'll be
asking you soon what you think you're hiding.
If you'd be a very interesting therapist, actually.
I'm not sure how halfway through I go, sorry, what were you saying?
What were you saying?
I don't know where I am. That'll be £250.
So with how like recognizing then for our own selves, how do you begin to unlock this wild elephant? Where would you suggest we all start today?
I don't know. Maybe in a really practical way, you could start with your thought life. I think getting in this stillness, this time of stillness and illness, little rhyme, that I experienced, I really got in touch with the negative thinking. I could hear, I had time to hear it, and we all have an inner critic to a certain extent. But a life coach I learned from said, if you could just spend 10 minutes a day writing down your sort of top thoughts, and you'll soon see, after 2 or 3 weeks, you'll soon see what she calls your top 10 tunes that basically make up, in the end, sort of who you are. So I was thinking mine would be quite joyful and uplifting, and there might be the odd sort of negative thought. But ultimately, my top 10 tunes were, I should be better by now, I'm wasting time, this is when I was ill, I'm wasting time, I'm getting overweight and that's not womanly. These ridiculous, horrible sort of, actually it's a testimony to the fact that we can rewire away from that and belong to ourselves and love ourselves. I can't actually remember the other top 10 tunes at the time.
But that's also an interesting point, because I think sometimes when you're stuck in those thoughts, you think, I'm always going to think like this. Yeah, can you reverse it? Is that a sign?
Totally. Or you believe it, and don't realise it's a problem. You're so hidden in it, you don't realise that's happening. So just writing, so I think sometimes just getting really practical with it and going, actually, what do I really think about myself? What do I genuinely fear? What's my worst sort of... And then knowing you can rewire from that. I mean, we're lucky we live in an age of we understand that neuroplasticity exists. We can change our brains.
What does neuroplasticity mean for people that might not know?
Oh, well, I'm not a physician. But
what does it look like?
Yes. I'll just say words like neurons a lot and sound fiercely intelligent. But no, from the research I've learned, our brains are plastic, they can change. Yeah. So you can literally rewire a thought. If you've got one negative thought tree that says, I should be better by now, or mine became, I'm never going to get better, you can literally say, no, stop, I might get better. And you can stop thinking that thought and think of another one. And you literally, the science says, kill off that thought tree and a new one grows. So our brains are quite extraordinary. And I certainly have a felt experience of that. And I mean, in a way, as a woman, I hate to use weight as an example, but it is quite a good one. Because in the last 3 years, I've put on a lot of weight and sort of feel very uncomfortable in myself and don't recognise who I am when I look at pictures. And it led to a lot of those old worldly thoughts of, I'm not good enough as a woman, or I'm really embarrassed going back into the public eye because I look different, I feel big, I'm tall anyway, I feel awkward, bumbling. All those old thoughts, almost like a teenager. Although when I was a teenager, I was stick thin, but I was just like, gosh, this is really... So I think we always have to concentrate to belong and love to ourselves. So I was just like, no, and I just kept saying no to it and walking away, and I was like, I don't want to live with that thought. That's not true. There's only one of me. So it doesn't matter. If the top regret of the dying is, I wish I'd been more myself and said what I wanted to do, and not what others expected of me, that's the key. Does it really matter if I never lose this weight? And I was like, no. And that thought just isn't really there anymore. I feel a bit uncomfortable and not as healthy as I want to yet. But so that's just a little example of... But I mean, gosh, there's so much I could say on that.
Yeah, and well, this is your treasures.
It's the book. It's all in the book, yeah.
Yeah, can you explain what your treasures are?
Well, so yeah, and the book is basically the story of how to belong to yourself, how to be more honest with yourself. And so I did loads of research, about 7 or 8 years of research, of the current sort of specialists, neuroscientists, scientists of the day. And... sort of formed it into my 10 treasures, as I call them, the treasures from my darkness. And the first one is connecting and sharing, which, gosh, I found surprisingly difficult. Being vulnerable and all that. Then surrender and acceptance. So accepting where you're at, accepting pain, accepting physical symptoms, accepting that it has not gone how you want it to do. Hardest thing ever, still is every day. Emotions. I'm now in touch with my emotions. It's the most exciting thing ever. So for wide expression of emotions and learning that, yeah, we had so-called good emotions, so-called bad emotions, that being grumpy is fine. A lot of my 20-something friends, one of whom's here today, I'm so grateful you've taught me, not that I'm saying you're grumpy, but you've taught me I can be irritable and grumpy, and it's fine, it's acceptable. Yeah. I was brought up that you must be polite and kind and put on the sheen all the time. Now I'm just occasionally angry if I want to be, and it feels fantastic. So that's 3, and allowing myself to grieve for what I've been through, even though I felt like I didn't have the right to grieve. Thoughts, learning to love myself, finding your why, and living by values. Yeah. This is just going through them really briefly.
This is a test of your treasures, by the way.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Play, finding your joy. I didn't realise I'd lost my joy again. I'd done joy as a job, but finding my joy and what that really means, and gosh, how vital it is for your health. Pacing and presence. Just getting rid of my biggest thing I realised was I was a productivity junkie massively. Distraction and busyness junkie. I didn't realise how much. So the pain of losing my work and the identity of my work was huge for me. So pacing and presence. Not fearing the setback.
Can I actually just...
No, sorry, you can't jump in.
Stop you on that one. We'll come back to the, we'll pick it up. But I think that one is a really big one.
Oh.
The productivity, junkiness, and busyness, because that is something I think we can dress ourselves in to get affirmation.
Yeah.
And then I can totally imagine once that's gone, you're like, well, who am I now? And I think that's why you get, midlife crises, retiree, empty nest syndrome, because suddenly you've built your life on your work and you don't really know who you are.
You're wise beyond your years, aren't you? Yes,
wow.
exactly that.
It's something I struggle with. Definitely struggle with myself.
Hopefully you won't hit that midlife crisis point with your level of awareness, but exactly that. It is, and it was weird being so removed from the world, because I could see my friends getting busier. I could see more and more the sort of emailing or texting, even in my company, and I was like, this is weird. And how everyone's going, I'm too busy, or no, I can't do that, or I can only stay 10 minutes. And just being removed from it, I thought, the world has gone mad. Was I actually in that? This is completely mad. And the pace. And yeah, so there was that, firstly. And then there was the lack of identity with no role and no job, which I thought perhaps might be because of my job, because it was a public one. And so I often, for a job, got a round of applause, which feels quite nice. But since talking to other people who've had similar experience with chronic illness, it's not because it's my job. There were people with all ranges of jobs said the hardest thing was letting go of my work. Because one of the first things people say, you say, who are you? I used to go, I'm a comedy actress.
Yeah, you answer with what you do.
With what you do.
Or when someone says, even, how are you? It's, I'm good, just busy.
Yeah.
Busy. It's why are we answering that we're busy?
Busy is it's a really good way to hide yourself. It's a really good way to give yourself a badge of honour. I mean, the world still tells us that the busier you are, the cooler and more successful you are. I mean, the emails I get asked anything to do. I'm sure you're so busy.
Yeah, you talk, yeah.
I'm so sorry to ask you, I'm so busy. And I was just like, no, I'm not at all, but I'm still going to say no. Because I've learnt that I just never want to be busy again. And obviously, I'm saying this from a place of unusual privilege. I mean, lots of normal privileges, but also I happen to not have had children. So there isn't a sort of structure and busyness there. But I think there are ways of being less busy in a busy life. I mean, just even the way I notice my friends or people walking so fast just to get from A to B, and I'm just like, you'll get there 15 seconds faster, and you might just take a breath on the way. But I mean, it's easy for me to spout it. I had to really learn it, and still do. I can still sometimes wake up in the morning and go, right, come on, and I just slow down. And that rushing, it turns out, is incredibly stressful in our bodies. We're not meant to live like this. We're not meant to rush. It's really bad for our nervous systems, and it immediately makes us think we're under threat.
Fight and flight mode.
Fight and it is fight. Yeah. So there are two things going on. I think there's the rushing and the identity. But sitting on my own for a long time, months on and off for years, going, who am I then, was a terrifying and fascinating experience. And now, if someone did come up to me and say, so who are you? Not that people really ask that, do they? They say, and what do you do?
Who are you?
Well, I would say that I'm how would I say that? I might say something like a child of God, to say, as in, I'm a uniquely wired woman who my passion is that everyone's free to be who they're made to be. I'm silly, I sometimes do comedy for a living. I've got terrible flatulence. Or something like that. I don't know, I'd say, what else do you want to know? I'd probably do a headline of like, I'm highly sensitive. I'd say I'm a bit weird because I'm either silly and bonkers and love having a bit of attention and sort of being the centre of attention, or I'll go very deep and quiet. That's me. Who are you? And to most people, I think that's absolutely terrifying. to be asked who are they or...
I think at parties you start introducing someone else, because then I think you stray away from what they do. And I say, this is Miranda, she is amazing, and she's all these things. I think that'd be great, rather than explaining who we are.
Yeah, rather than what do you do, yeah. What excites you?
That can be the next party.
What's been the good part?
Yeah.
What's been the good part of your day? What's been the bad part of your day?
Peak and pit. I do that every dinner time.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
Okay, so we'll do it now.
Okay.
Do it now. So, and then we'll move on to the second section.
Okay.
I'm like keeping on time. So what's the peak of your day, and what was the pit of your day?
Peak of
you
the
go
day
first.
Is me calming down now, speaking into a microphone with a lovely group of people, not breathless anymore because I was nervous when I first appeared. And the pit of my day was the nerves when I first appeared and forgetting every question you asked me.
We've come full circle.
That's genuinely true. Although I also had a terrible doctor's appointment earlier and she said I've got to have this mole removed. That's just really boring. I mean, it's fine, it doesn't matter, it's just boring. I find, you know...
What's an exciting doctor's appointment? Does such a thing exist?
I don't know.
They're all boring.
My mind's gone somewhere cheeky, I'm not going. And so is yours if you laughed at that, by the way.
Peak and pit.
Peak and pit, very good.
Pit. It's very good.
But that also to say that we do need meaning and work is important and we have to pay the bills. Yes. It's just, so again, it's very easy. I'm acutely aware of the suffering in the world and my privilege, and I just want to make that really clear. But so it's not really sort of about that. It's not about kind of what you do and meaning, oh, we all need to go and spend 2 years sitting on top of a mountain working out who we are. It's not that at all. It's who we are within what we do. And what we do is a really important part of us. Finding your why, I think that was one of the key treasures, was really important to me. You didn't let me finish the treasures, by the way. Joy and play,
okay,
pacing and presence, there's only 2 more. Don't fear the setback, learn patience and trust. Oh, I thought that life was an upward trajectory, and you're meant to go like this. By the time you're 30, you have this. By the time 35, you're hosting couples dinners parties. So that's just not for me. Obviously, wrong crowd, you all love that. Then by the time 40 this, and that you wholly know yourself, and you're completely in love with yourself, and you're all fine, blah, blah. I mean, what a load of tosh. All these markers, it's nonsense. Life is this, and without the troughs, you wouldn't learn a single thing. So that's a very important treasure. You see, I told you I should finish them. And this, the 10th one is love. It's all about love in the end. Carry on.
I think that deserves a round of applause.
Not really. Hardly.
There's a painting I love actually from an artist called Amanda Jones, and it's of this circle. Some of you might have seen it, and it says, "Everything in my life is perfectly in order. It's just not in a straight line." And that just reminded me of what you were saying. Yeah, we definitely feel like we're on this upward trajectory, and
also that everything should be okay all the time. That was my big one. So if everything went wrong, I must fix this immediately. This isn't right. I must fix this. And I'm like, now, if I have a really bad 2 weeks of fatigue, which I still live with, or feel suddenly rubbish about myself, and I think, oh, hang on, I've learnt not to do that, then I sit with it and go, this is living life to the full as much.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And the minute I go, it's okay, and have a little cry and don't fix myself, I think that's what I would do to a toddler. That's what I do to my best friend, is I just go, it's okay, you know. And that's so free. Anyway, I'm off now because I've relaxed and I'm here and I've remembered what you've said.
We love it. That's an example, isn't it, of loving yourself?
Oh,
and
yes.
That's in the treasure, isn't it? Self-care, self-love. How does that relate to then loving other people? Because that's something I know that is true, but you really believe in as well, is that when we love ourselves better, we're then able to recognize other people better and love other people.
Yeah, I think so.
How does that relationship work?
I think for some people, though, it helps. It's a loop, isn't it? Because if you love outwards, then you feel better about yourself too. Because we're inherently kind, we like helping. But I think as long as if you recognize yourself as a helper or someone who loves helping because you want good feedback or because that's how you want to feel loved, or you're annoyed when you don't get a compliment, then that's your signal of, oh, hang on, I'm doing it to feel loved. Whereas if you can fill your tank of self-love, you can then help others without that need. You're not people-pleasing, you're loving others. So for me, I had to start with, I had this ghastly privilege of years to contemplate. So I worked out who I was, and it was really important for me to understand myself better and get to know myself. Because the greatest relationship you're in your life is yourself. And I was like, so what does that mean? And I realized there were so many aspects of myself that I didn't know. I didn't know till I was, I think, early 40s that I was an introvert, and that literally changed my whole life. So it's like, so then the things like boundaries, which we hear all the time, and I was like, what are boundaries? I don't understand. Hashtag boundaries. I was like, I don't actually know what it means, really. So knowing myself and loving myself, I was then able to understand, oh, okay, so as an introvert, as somebody with an energy-depleting condition, as somebody who loves this, doesn't like that, I can love my friends, my family so much better now because I know who I am. And so when I say, I've learned I can say no, and my friends and family, hopefully now, when I say yes, they really know. Like, if I said yes to you to coming to a dinner party, you go, she really wants to be here.
Yes.
Because it would have been no for 12 years. So I think you're then your friends really trust you because you're being completely honest with you. So for me, it was getting to know myself, so I can be much more loving and giving to others, because I know how to love and give, and I know what I'm best at and what I feel like I'm on this planet to give and to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, you must also have to get over a lot of people-pleasing to get to that place. I think you talk about in your book a friend that wanted to use your printer. Can you tell that story?
Oh, yeah, when I first
I thought this is a really good example.
Yeah, when I first started thinking about boundaries and thinking of saying no, because, of course, sometimes you have to say no to people who will misunderstand you. That's fun. Or to friends who think might being rude. It's just ghastly to start with, but I can't tell you how freeing it is now. But, yeah, so this friend came, she popped in to say hello to me, and she said, I've only got 45 minutes, so I'm very, very busy. I shouldn't laugh. I obviously do that. We all do it. But I wish we didn't. And then as she was leaving, she went, oh, God, I just realised I forgot to ask you, can I print something? I need to print something. Can I come back actually afterwards and print? And I thought, I'm going to say no. I have to say no. I need to shut the door and that be my evening, because I was dealing with illness. No one knew what it was yet. I knew I was really ill. I hadn't told anyone yet. So I went, no, that doesn't work for me. And she went, what? And obviously I wanted to go, no, sorry, no, of course, Miss Hughes, I'm gone mad. Obviously, what am I? Of course, come again. And all that sort of people-pleasing thing came on.
Sweat. I would feel just like nervous. Like,
I said, no, I really need the evening just to not even answer the door. I just need an evening to myself. I'm really, really tired. And she just went, that's just so amazing. Okay, yeah, no, wow. Okay. No, I could probably ask my husband. Okay, well, gosh. Wow. And I thought, well, we really don't meet our needs.
Yeah.
And that's...
What on you?
Oh, I don't think I knew what needs were really till much too late.
Well, because I think we hear the word needs as selfish. That's the mistake I've made often, is going, well, where's the line between just thinking of yourself and being selfish and going, well, I'm just not going to help and I'm just going to have my own boundaries and no one can come in them. But then actually, as you're saying, if you don't have those, if you have none, then you're no good to anyone, because you're just keep pouring, you burn out, you're exhausted. Yeah, you're exhausted.
That's what burnout is.
My mum always used to say to me, if you try and please everyone, you disappoint everyone. You please no one. You please everyone, you please no one. Yeah,
and you're also, I love it when people say no to me, because I think like I was saying, to my friend here, it was not a random person, by the way, about the dinner party thing. I'm not expecting you to ask me out. Is that I love people who say no because I trust their yes. And I then can ask them for help. I don't ask people pleasers for help because I don't trust when they come round, because I think, well, you might be exhausted, because I know you may not be there honourably. I need someone there honourably who can say no.
Wow.
And so I think the more we say no, the more loving we are. And the world's just got it the wrong way around.
Yeah, I think that's a hugely challenging thought for everyone here.
Yeah, so I cancelled Christmas once.
Yeah, I read that. I did read that. I've done my homework, Miranda.
Yeah, and it was quite recently. It was maybe 4 years ago, and I just knew I didn't have the energy to go to my parents for Christmas. And I love my parents, and we always have Christmas together, and we have great fun. And I was like, I just can't do Christmas this year. I'm not well enough. So it took me about 3 days to ring my mother. I was like, why am I so scared? I'm a 48-year-old woman. This is ridiculous. And I said, I'm really sorry, I'm not coming for Christmas. And she couldn't have been nicer. And then it turned out I had shingles and really was not well. And my body was definitely telling me, you're not up for Christmas. And I thought, if I can cancel Christmas, I can do anything. I felt so strong and powerful. I felt the energy come back to my body. Do you know that our bodies can't lie? There are so many studies now of even when you tell, I think, 3 or 4 white lies, then your immune system weakens and your nervous system weakens. Yeah, your
Who's
body.
Told a lie today if you're in the room?
Well, we all will have done to some degree.
Little lie. We're all getting ill.
But we don't realise how much we're lying to ourselves because we're saying yes instead of no. And well, that's I'm saying you all the time. This was my experience. Yeah, you're probably all perfect.
Miranda.
Yes. Hello.
Do you know we're going to move into a different section, which is also it's going to be a bit deep.
We're still all about me.
Still about you, but I thought maybe as a nice interchange, I would love to ask you what your favourite musical is.
Oh, nice. It's still about me, though, so that's fine. My favourite. Oh gosh, that's tricky. Well, as you may know, when I was younger, I used to play all the parts of Annie. After school, and I had this dream of playing Miss Hannigan and was able to do that. So Miss Hannigan has a place in my heart. Is this still working, by the way? Oh, yes, it is, yeah.
You can check it with your breast if you want.
Yes, thank you.
Maybe don't.
I'll do a breast clap and we'll check it. So Annie has a place in my heart. I'm very traditional when it comes to, you can't go wrong with Singing in the Rain. Sound of Music.
Oh,
I think
that's
Sound
one of
of
my
Music
favourite
was
musicals,
I just find it so deeply romantic.
And who's your favourite character?
Well, I wanted to be Maria, but probably Captain Von Trapp. I feel like I slightly married Captain Von Trapp. Do you know what I mean? Do you think he's a bit Christopher Plummer, my husband? Yeah, a little bit.
Wow.
Sorry, you're getting a bit more
Congratulations on your marriage.
My nuptials, thanks.
Captain Von Trapp.
I found my Captain Von Trapp.
You're going to go across the mountains together.
We actually, at the wedding, I said the wedding, like it was the wedding. It was in true being authentic to yourself, it was 35 people around a pool with a Hawaiian theme for no reason. So, I mean, it really was not the wedding. But at the end, we sang Climb Every Mountain. Oh. Yeah, and I was bawling as we left. Yeah.
As in you two sang it or all the guests sang it?
All the guests.
Okay, it wasn't like a performance to your guests. That would have been good, though.
Yeah. Very informal vibe. We all had a sing-song. Yeah, it was great. Yeah. That's what I tell you, the best thing to be honest about is how you socialise. Do socialise how you want to socialise, and it's the greatest gift for other people.
How does that? So do you know what we're going to move on?
It's too much. We'll be here till midnight.
It's too much.
Yeah. It's in the book. It's in the book.
There is literally no segue to this to this question.
Great. Well,
from musicals. But where I'd like to go, is that you are the proud ambassador of the Recognise Foundation.
Well, it's for me to say if I'm proud, but yeah.
I think I'm
sorry, you set me up there.
I think you're proud.
You set me up. Yeah, I am proud.
And you've been a part of our Recognise campaign, which is all about helping people to know that they're not alone, and helping people face one day at a time and motivate people towards giving that recognition. And I believe the yellow boxes are actually going out into people's posts this week.
It's such a beautiful thing.
I had someone, for those listening that don't know what the Recognise campaign is, would you like to explain, Miranda? I'll explain
you're the woman for that.
in a sentence. But Recognise campaigns are I'm going to sound like a textbook now, but Recognise
No,
campaigns are viral social media campaigns to help people feel seen, valued and recognised when they need it most. It's very simple. All you have to do is recognise a loved one on our ambassador's post, so Miranda's Instagram post. That person gets to read an amazing message about themselves and then go and fill in details to receive this yellow box of recognition in the post. And you can go look. In fact, we've all recognised you tonight. You've all got something on your chair. So have a look at what's in there. But I'm just gonna give it away because the people listening won't know. The surprise is ruined.
Unwrapping it.
In fact,
not listening, which would be rude.
So, no, but there's a card in there that says you've been recognised, know that you're hugely valued and appreciated, keep going, and everyone gets this special pin of recognition as a reminder that they're not alone. We should have been wearing them. We missed a trick. But we've got,
It was on my jumper earlier.
Something that's really important about recognition is helping, in order to help other people feel recognised, we have to understand what it's like. I love that expression of what's it like to go through cancer? What's it like to be a new mum? What's it like for you, Miranda, to experience a chronic illness? Like, what does that look like? Because until we actually understand, like, how can we better love our friends, our families, our colleagues? So I'd love to open up a bit of a space to talk about that. So yeah, my question to you is, what has chronic illness looked like for you?
Yeah, it's very hard, isn't it, to recognise or to work out how much we should recognise in each other the pain that the other's going through. I think the key, as an overarching thing, the key to remember what chronic illness has taught me is that everybody's holding something. There are lots of quotes. I think Brené Brown said a quote about how I think if we bumped into the street and heard everyone's stories, we'd be on our knees all half the time of what we're carrying. So with chronic illness, it's called chronic invisible illness for a reason, because even if you end up with a diagnosis like I did of ME caused by Lyme disease, you're under the banner of ME, chronic fatigue, long conditions, long COVID, fatigue-based conditions basically. Pain would be the same, fibromyalgia. And you can't see it and people don't really understand it. So I think the sort of unique ghastliness of it is how utterly misunderstood it is and how people don't try and understand it. And I think that we can't all be on our knees in front of each other and hold each other all the time. We're guided into who to help, but I think it just reminds us everybody's holding something. And that's why it's always #BeKind, isn't it? Because so what it looks like to me, chronic illness, is lonely, or did look for me, was lonely. There was something every day to grieve, because when you're housebound with fatigue or bedbound with fatigue, you're missing out on the things that you long to do, the little things, or that you were once able to do. So I don't think I've been on a long, brisk walk now for 10 years. And I miss that every day. I miss just stepping out with no fear of my energy or no pain. And so, you know, you then add on a public job to that, and you think no one would know that. So it's loneliness, isolation. I think a lot of people experience with it, feeling misunderstood, misjudged. So, yeah, I think we all feel that probably to some extent with everything we're carrying. So it's very hard, and that's why I think getting to know who you are and being able to hold yourself in it and parent yourself in it is so important, and allow those emotions, allow those difficulties. And then you'll know what your needs are and how to ask for help and who your trusted fellows are. But I think possibly I still haven't done that thing of really sharing with somebody what it was actually really like, because I'm only just maybe 3 or 4 years out of the really difficult bit of it. And I think that's really important. So yeah, I think probably most people, well, I don't know, but for me it was lonely, misunderstood. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think, you know, if you know, people listening here, how does it get misunderstood? Like, what do people misunderstand? You know.
Well, do you think you could equate, maybe you guys can answer, do you think you could equate it to any situation? Is any situation misunderstood? I don't know. I suppose I suppose the nature of a fatigue-based chronic illness is that the longevity of it, the fact that you can look quite healthy, you can have half an hour of looking fine and laughing and whatever. So there's no clear diagnosis. There's no, when someone breaks their knee or their leg, we all know where we're at. Or even a cancer, you know predominantly what the treatment is or what the pattern looks like. But with fatigue-related illnesses, I don't think people see the debilitation and the limitation of life.
Yeah.
Because many people end up in wheelchairs with pain, or with a condition called POTS that I had, where, but mine wasn't bad enough to be in a wheelchair. Where just standing up your body can't cope with that very much. But so it's just particularly hidden. Mm. Yeah, it's a hard one.
Yeah, and that hiddenness brings that loneliness. And I think there's a stat that half of people in the UK will feel lonely at some point within a year, and it particularly happens to people who are facing difficult life circumstances. But yeah, when you're hidden, how can you then feel seen?
I know, so it's then a bit of a loop, because it is sort of becomes your responsibility to then find the person to share with.
Yeah.
And as I say, I keep going back to saying, and it might sound odd for those of you who haven't been there, but I really had to share with myself first. I had to, when my dog died, I realised that I was grieving and snotting and just, oh, my dog, and everyone's going, you poor thing. And I had this comfort in this sport, and I could text people and go, well, does it get better? And I didn't feel like an idiot or too vulnerable or whatever. And then I hadn't done that with my illness. And to be, for anyone to be trapped by whatever condition, it might be a difficult relationship, it might be anxiety, whatever, for years and years and years on end and not be seen, is very difficult for a human, I think. And I grieved that on my own first, and I thought, who do I want to choose to share this with?
Yeah.
But just holding it myself meant that I could listen to what I wanted. And I think you ultimately do have to get to that place of them, because you can't expect, the whole world to kind of turn to you.
Yeah, and understand.
That's not how it works.
But I think something I've recognised we're passionate about is, what could it look like if we did know more? And if we were thinking more thoughtful. And that's what I love about the Recognise campaign, is it's actually, by you speaking out about it, even right now, people go, oh, that makes me feel seen, or that makes me feel heard and understood, because someone else has also gone through this.
Yeah.
And I'm really fascinated about how we can better, so how could we better recognise someone struggling with a chronic illness? Like, what for you in that time was helpful and what wasn't?
What wasn't helpful, and I'm very guilty of this, was people trying to fix it. And I think we are in a fix-it culture. We just want things instantly. We want things to be better. And of course we do for our loved ones. And part of it is it's very difficult to hold a long-term illness space for somebody, because I think it's a huge fear for people. It's very hard to sit in the awkwardness and the sadness of that, because people can't imagine or don't want to imagine that level of debilitation. So, I think not fixing is sitting, learning to listen and be in that brave awkwardness of listening. I mean, I still find it really hard to listen without jumping in and coming up with advice, but that was the hardest thing. The other really difficult thing, which I think is in our culture, is what they call, the specialists call toxic positivity, which again is a very easy go-to, and we think we're helping. I'm not dissing anyone doing this. I would have been guilty of it myself, but going straight to, oh, come on, think of all the things that you've done in your life, or it's going to be great, you're going to be fine, or you're so brave, you're soldiering on. It's just like, and I say that to my husband a lot, if I'm having a bad day or I just want to express something, because I now know I'm a very highly sensitive, emotional person, which is thrilling. I now know who I am. And I'm like, no, don't be doing that. No, can we just acknowledge, even if it's just for 5 minutes, right now this is really shit. And I had a little moment and a little moan, and it was probably a bit self-pitying the other day, and I realised I hadn't been on a bicycle and gone on a bicycle ride for years. It's one of my favourite things, and I just grieved it and missed it, and I was like, I want to go on a bicycle like a 7-year-old. And he was like, oh, you will one day, and step by step. I went, no, absolutely not, with the toxic positivity. Just let me have 10 minutes. And I said, can you imagine that? Can you imagine that, not being able to go for it? And he just held my hand and went, that would be really hard. And a little weep, and we had a weep together, and then I was sort of fine. So
it's really someone coming alongside you,
it's
and
coming,
sitting with you,
yeah.
and being with you in the pain, and not trying to
and
take
saying,
it away.
what do you need?
What do you need?
What
That's
do
a
you
good
need?
question. Yeah. And I think you're also talking about validation there. This idea of, can you share the story about the girl and the dog?
Oh, yes, gosh, that so resonated with me. It's not necessarily...
Because I thought it was such a brilliant...
Yeah, well, it's you set it up to be a rather thrilling or hilarious story, by the way. It's quite... But it is... It's,
you can make it funny.
Yeah, validation, because it's very easy to sweep things away, I think. And we do that to ourselves a lot. I keep saying we or you. I should say I. Keep being told off for that. Speak from the I position. That's what they say. The girl and the dog. Yeah, so I was sitting on a little bridge over a river with my dog, and this family came with the other end of the bridge, walking along, and Peggy, my dog, ran towards them and went straight for the eldest child and sort of jumped up a bit on her. She's a small dog, jumped up on her legs. And the girl looked absolutely terrified and was sort of hiding behind her mother. And I nearly got up and sort of ran and wanted to say to the child, it's okay, no, Peggy wouldn't hurt you. I promise she's just really friendly. She'll never bite you. Don't worry. And I heard the mother say, oh, don't be so ridiculous. How can you be scared of this little dog? And I don't think the mother, I'm not saying the mother was a bad mother. I don't think she meant any harm. It was maybe she was embarrassed that her child was, I don't know. It doesn't matter. But it just hit my heart in such a major way. I was biting my lip not to cry because I thought, that's what we do to ourselves. Don't be so ridiculous. Or my culture did. My background did. You shouldn't feel like that. So emotions are energy in motion. They help us survive. They're part of being a human. And they're part of how wonderful and weird and wonky and brilliant we all are. And so, yeah, it was an amazing moment when I realised, oh, I do that to myself as well. I say I shouldn't be feeling that, or I should be better by now, or that's just in the way, you know.
So you can actually come alongside yourself.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, so much pressure to be other than... So I think there's often, for me, I put a lot of pressure on myself to be other than who I am or what I'm feeling in the moment, which is exhausting. And mean, actually. It's not loving. So, yeah, I think what do you need? We can't help everyone. We can't, that thing of saying, oh, everyone carries a story, we'd be on our knees. If we can't go out tonight and go, oh my God, everyone's in such a bad way, what can we do? I think it's then back to, okay, where do I suffer and where does that make me want to help? Or what really speaks to my heart? What breaks my heart? Because what breaks my heart may not break your heart. And that's where I'll help. Or, if now I've experienced chronic illness, I want to help those with it, but I would have never known about it before. So I don't think also we shouldn't feel guilty about.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Do you know what I mean? But what you're saying...
You can just have complete compassion fatigue if you were to do that, wouldn't you? Where to start?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, validation is really important.
And what else helped you during that period of time? Can you think of a time where a friend recognised you or someone showed up for you that was really meaningful?
It was, I go back to the same thing. It was me meeting me. And that might sound really weird, but it was, I think I was too afraid before I got a clear diagnosis to ask for help. And to say this is how awful it is. I didn't feel like I had the right to do that with my privilege. I didn't, which is wrong. I didn't feel like anyone would understand or listen. So I just spoke to myself and just said, it was weird, but I said, this is awful what you're going through. And I cried and sort of gave myself a hug. Oh, sorry, microphone. To people listening, that was me giving myself a hug. And I just allowed it, and the tears fell and the relief of that. And doing that privately meant I could then think about approaching a friend with it. And then I did have one friend who I said, I really feel like I need some connection, some sort of touch, something. And she said, shall I hold your feet? And we sort of laughed about it, but I said, yeah, that would be great. And she just held my feet, and my lovely, clammy, cold socks. Or maybe she even took the socks off, I don't know. But it was a very vulnerable moment, and then it wasn't. And we just sat there in silence, and it was so healing just to go, oh, that's real connection. So that's my story, because I clearly was far... I was the confident one, I was the idiot, I was the class clown, I was the wise one, I was always the one that people come to advice with, but I didn't have that vulnerable side. And now holding both, I feel whole and complete.
Yeah, and it sounds your story is one of being able to recognize yourself because of the intrinsic value that you have and joining those dots.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is actually surprised me because I think I probably would have thought, oh, you need someone else to recognize you, which is so important. And I would like to ask, just for the benefit of people listening, if they do know someone going through it, like what is something that they could actually do if they do want to help and they do feel compelled to help. But I'm also hearing the importance of being able to validate yourself, be there for yourself. You also talk a lot about the power of words.
Yeah.
Can you just quickly share about the bluebells?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Because this is shook me. This is such a crazy story. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think back to your thing of what people can do to help is I think they can asking what do you need, and do you want to tell me your story? Do you want to be heard? But that's what therapy is having a compassionate witness to what you're going through. That's what's healing. But back to the bluebells. What was the reason for what was the segue for the bluebells? What's the the love for yourself? Yeah, for me, it had to start with myself. For others, it might be they just need to offload and then get someone to talk through it. For me, I had to sit with it myself. Just because I was alone, it was also practicalities, and there was a pandemic and all sorts of things. But yeah, so it was really, that's how I started to really grow my self-love and self-compassion. And talking about the inner critic earlier, the practical thing you can do to start listening to your inner critic and think, no, I want to rewire away from that. Was that a friend bought me a crate of bluebells, because I'd longed for years to get to a bluebell wood because I loved walking bluebells, and I couldn't because I'd been unwell. So she brought bluebells to me, which was very lovely. And they were just the bulbs sticking out, with maybe a tiny shoot, but sticking out at the top of the earth. And I'd heard this experiment, you may or may not have heard of, the rice bowl experiment, where this man cooked some simple white rice, and he put what was in the same saucepan of rice into 2 bowls, and he put them in the fridge, and to one bowl of rice he spoke loving, kind words, and to the other bowl of rice he spoke vile words and said, you're a horrible, stupid piece of rice, you're a failure. And a week later, the rice that he spoke vile words over went mouldy, and vice versa. So it just went everywhere, this experiment. And then I heard of this teacher who did it for kids to kind of explain how kindness is important to plants, and the plants that they were vile to withered. And when you hear experiments like that or read them, you think, that sounds, but really? And so I thought, I'm going to try it. So I chose one of the bulbs. And
Poor bulb.
I know. And I touched the bulb, and firstly I said things that I noticed my inner critic was saying to me that day. So I touched it and said, you're never going to get better, you're weak, everyone thinks you're just lazy, or whatever, all the things about Emmy. And I cannot explain the level of pain that I felt in saying that to a living bluebell bulb, even though it was just a bluebell bulb, because I realised that's what so many people carry, but certainly I was carrying this inner critic. My inner critic was pretty vile. She's fine now. We're on good terms. And I tell her to shush all the time.
She has a name?
She has a name. Yeah, name your inner critic. That's in the book. And then I started to saying to this bulb for about 10 days, I said, you're not as good as the other bulbs. You'll never grow. And I came desensitized to it, which was also alarming, because I realized, that's what I'm doing to myself as well. Anyway, I thought, surely this won't work. All the other bulbs grew, and they grew offshoots, and they grew maybe that high. This one was about that high, had no offshoots, it never grew. And I thought, I'm never going to entertain my inner critic again. because those words we speak over ourselves and those lies in which we hide, that we don't often know we're doing, are, I was going to say killing us, that's too tough, are weakening us. And yeah, it breaks my heart. It's not who we are. It's not the truth. Our thoughts are not who we are. So it was amazing, yeah.
Wow. Big. Oh my gosh, Miranda.
Big.
Is there anything else that you would like to share this evening?
Gosh, I mean, now you've said that, my mind's a blank. I also like West Side Story.
Yes. The
really
Jets.
Good, yeah.
And the Sharks.
Yeah.
Sharks, yeah.
Very good. I liked the modern version as well recently, but that's probably not what you expect.
Yeah, but you haven't seen Wicked, as we discovered
I haven't
earlier,
seen Wicked, no.
Which, will you go watch the film?
Well, should I?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Oh, I've just said should. No, shoulds, oughts, musts. Not on my watch. That's changed.
I think so.
Would you recommend it? I will consider it, knowing
I would
who I am.
recommend it.
And loving myself and my boundaries and my energy levels, I will then consider as to whether I will go and see Wicked.
Yeah, and
I won't do it to please you.
go see the film and then see the musical in one day.
Okay, being quite bossy about it now.
Yeah, you
All
should
right.
go do it. You should.
All right.
It's hard not to say the word should.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When you
these
start
words we
saying
need
it.
to take out of our lexicons.
Well, Miranda, I want to give you a final opportunity.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to thank you so much for everything that you
Thank
shared this
you.
evening. I think there's just so much that we can all take away, particularly around how we love ourselves and recognise ourselves and show up for ourselves in order to be fully seen and fully whole. And I just, really want to thank you for what you've shared and what you've unlocked. I hope everyone's taken something, like a treasure. We were saying in that earlier, we hope people go away with a treasure that, metaphorically, because Miranda has treasures in her book, hope that connected. But that everyone would just take one treasure away. And I think there's been like a whole chest there. So thank you, Miranda.
Thank you.
Can we give you a huge round of applause? And then I have one more question
Feel
for
free.
you.
Thank you very much. Oh, thanks, guys.
I'll keep clapping.
Am I meant to be going now?
Keep going.
Am I going? Oh, one more question.
And then I'll ask you the question.
Okay.
And then
I thought you were
can,
saying that you can go
And
now.
then I'll ask you the question.
Sitting here lapping it up.
Okay, so is that Miranda?
Yes.
After I've asked you this question,
Yeah.
you can stand up, depart, and we'll clap you again, just so you. Because
Right.
then I'm going to give some final house rules, and it's just a bit boring
I
for you
don't
to
want
say that.
that.
Exactly, you don't want to say that for that. So, Miranda, I'm really queuing up this question.
You're making me quite
This
nervous.
is something we're going to do. I said to everyone earlier, if I say we do this on the Recognised podcast, it's the first time we've done it. So
Okay.
I'll be doing it on all of them now.
Okay. Although I'm
no
your guinea
pressure.
pig, so yeah.
Yeah, no pressure, unless
Yeah.
it absolutely bombs. So we'll see. We'll see.
Oh.
No, it can't. It's
No,
a
can you
brilliant
get on with
question.
it now? You're making me really nervous.
Is there... Miranda, is there anyone that you would like to recognise this evening?
Oh, that's much easier because it's not about me. Oh gosh, so many people. Well, the woman who held my feet is coming to mind. If you take that out of the edit of the podcast, that's going to sound really weird right now. Okay, the first person who came to mind, really randomly, but let's go with that. An author who I've never met and would love to, called Sue Monk Kidd. Do we know her? 2 or 3. She's American, and she's just been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and she's lives in Southern America. She's a Christian lady, and she wrote this memoir and talk about the power of sharing your stories. She cracked my heart open with her memoir and gave me the confidence to write mine. And so that's just who sprung to mind. She's written some novels and wonderful things, but she's a brilliant, open, beautiful, brave, powerful woman. And I think the godmother to the Brené Browns and the many others that have sort of studied and come since. But
Wow.
yeah.
And if she was sat in front of you right now, what would you say to her?
Oh gosh, I'd probably cry. I'd say thank you for sharing your story because you were a friend in my darkness.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing place to leave it. Sue, you have been recognised.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Miranda.
Pleasure.
Exit.
Exit.
Leave.
Exit. I'm going to gallop.